Hello, everybody. This is Carrie with a girl and her mad cat. Today this is, I guess, technically episode one. I've been kind of wishy-washy on how I'm going to do this. I've been trying to stick to like 10 minutes perfect and all that kind of stuff, but you know what? We're not going to do that. We are going to essentially go, and I'm going to try to keep under half an hour. Um, but yeah, we're pretty much going to talk about BattleTech stuff, and maybe sometimes I'll delve into other games, such as Bolt Action, Conflict 47, stuff like that. But for the most part, I'm going to talk about Battletech, painting Battletech, and Battletech organized play. Well, let me rephrase this. This is mainly going to be Alpha Strike with some Battletech thrown in for fun because I like both. I love both. Um, as a disclaimer, I am a demo team agent. None of the views here represent the demo team, Catalyst Game Labs, or anybody else except for me. Today, we're going to take on the subject of organized play in general, mainly for Alpha Strike because it's more conducive to the format of organized play as opposed to classic Battletech or just Battletech, depending on how you want to say it. And so, where to start? Okay, my introduction to organized play for Alpha Strike was actually sort of in Fredericksburg, but not totally. That's not totally how it worked, but it's sort of in Fredericksburg. We played at a game store. Um, what's the name of it again? Your Hobby Place in Fredericksburg, Virginia, and we would play there about once a week. And I got the local group into Alpha Strike. So what happened? And give me a second. What happened was that essentially we started getting into Alpha Strike. We needed a regular points level to play. So we decided on roughly about 500 points, which a lot of people seem to freak out about. I don't understand why. It gives you enough points for a medium to heavy company with some light elements or armor thrown in, or you can do like a lighter company with an armor attachment, something like that. Generally speaking, the way that the rules were set up for our unit construction was loosely based on the combat manuals, where you picked an era, you picked a faction, and you got 12 faction points. No more, no less, just 12. And the way it worked essentially was if you wanted a chassis repeat, it cost a faction point. If you wanted a mech from an era that you are not playing in, it cost you one faction point per era that you deviated. So if I was playing as, let's say, I don't know, House Davian during the Dark Ages, and I wanted to go all the way back to the Star League for some reason to get a mech from my faction, it would cost me like 6 faction points. But I could also, during the current era, step slightly outside of my faction and go, oh, I want a Blackhawk KU, which is not a mech available to them, but I like the mech. So I could buy a Blackhawk KU for 1 faction point, so now I have 11 faction points left. Or if I wanted 2 of the same mech, I could spend 2 faction points. But anyway, the whole reason I bring this up is because there's discussion of, what is the regular Alpha Strike format as far as what I've come across on the Catalyst the Catalyst message boards. What is standard Alpha Strike? And that seems to be kind of in the air right now. So the first competitive Alpha Strike game that I played, or tournament I played actually, was in Nashville, Tennessee. And they had no restrictions on units. There was, I think the only thing is you couldn't have more than 2 of the same thing. So essentially what happened was we went and we brainstormed for several weeks and play tested the living hell out of everything that we could get our hands on. And we finally came up with an optimized list for Alpha Strike at 500 points with no faction restrictions, no restrictions on unique units, no technology restrictions. It was essentially the best of the best that you can take, and also that you could monkey around with the skills and get it to where you're constantly hitting the enemy. So we went ahead and did that, and I went to Tennessee with it, and I'm not going to say I walked over the opposition, but essentially, as long as I didn't screw up by making a really dumb choice, I was almost definitely going to win. And these were not just stand-up fights. They were based on objectives. One of them was stand-up fight. One of them was breakthrough, which I have to say was the hardest one for me to win, simply because at that point it doesn't matter if I can kill you. It matters how many units you can get off the board. The scenario favors the attacker in that all you have to do is run off the other end of the board, and if you're fast enough, I'm not going to stop you. But, so I went there, and apparently that tournament, from what I understand, is part of what inspired WolfNet 350 to be a format, which WolfNet 350, I can't say I like the format. Will I be playing in it? Probably in Winston-Salem this November. I will be at a tournament that it looks like is going to use the WolfNet 350 format. So, yeah, I'm probably going to end up having to play in the 350 format. But once again, we've been going through and developing the most brokenest thing we can possibly build in their rule set. But they essentially said, you know what, 500 points is too much. Experimental tech, which, yes, experimental tech should be limited, but I don't think it should be outlawed completely. Like, for example, the Scarecrow is experimental. The Scarecrow is not scary. Well, it is, but it's not. It has some advantages. But it's not like the end-all, be-all of mechs. It's not like the Fireball XF, which I think I took 2 of in that tournament, and good luck hitting it. But yeah, so there's reasonable approaches, but the WolfNet 350, I don't think I would be so inclined to not like the format if it didn't get rid of, or if it didn't basically make it 200 points with the sidebar. And the argument I constantly hear is, well, Carrie, 200 points lets you play multiple games in a day. To which my response is, at 500 points, I can go to a 4-round tournament and be done in under 2 hours every round. I mean, if I'm looking for an all-day game, me and 5 other friends, or 3 or 4 other friends, are going to take 2 battalions at 1,500 points each and just clobber stomp each other on a table, where it goes from trying to maneuver a lance on a flank to moving a whole company on your flank. So, that's where I get kind of like, I don't know if this whole thing with the whole, well, the 350 is the best format, because I don't think it is. In fact, in Tennessee, where they modified their format, once again, because of influence from what I did, which is the whole point of what I did. It was like, this is not an acceptable tournament format. But, 500 points unlimited, do what you want, is just not an acceptable format. You have to have construction rules. But anyway, where they went and they've gone and developed, I want to say it's a 450 point format, but you're using all 450 points. The 350 format, if it lets you use all 350 every game, I think I would be more happy with it, simply because to me, having 6 units on the table does not feel like Alpha Strike. It feels like I'm playing like something between Alpha Strike and Battletech. Now, mind you, they have modified their format in that you're rolling 2d6 per damage pip that a mech puts out. I don't know if I like that. Okay, mind you, it makes you more effective, but it's also it slows things down. So yeah, now at the 350, you're slowing things down intentionally, but the whole point of like some of the mechs in Alpha Strike is that you may not hit them often, but the moment you tag it, it explodes. It's gone. You know, it's it goes from really fast, hard to hit to vaporware. But yeah, so that's what I'm looking at right now. And what we're planning on doing is because the 350 is supposedly this unbreakable format, the whole idea is that we go to Winston-Salem, North Carolina. If that's what they're using, we break it. We just try to break it. And I know there are people listening saying, you know what, Carrie, you're being an asshole. Yes, I am. But that is what I do. It's just what I do. But I enjoy it too. I enjoy breaking game systems simply so that someone can look at mainly tournament systems, so someone can look and go, you know what? Yeah, there's a problem here. We can modify something a little bit to make it way better. So, I mean, that's my little rant about organized play and the issues with organized play that I have overall. So, what we're going to do next is pretty much I want to go ahead and talk about a segment during every show called Tech Talk. It's going to be a small little segment, talks about a mech per day or a vehicle or maybe even a weapon system, who knows. But we're going to go ahead and do that. And what I'm going to do, I'm taking inspiration from something I used to do on YouTube, and it was called Mech of the Day. But pretty much what it'll be is I want to go ahead and go over mechs in, I don't want to say chronological order, but in some kind of order. And what I'm going to do is we're going to start with the recognition guides, the Ill-Clan recognition guides. And in case you're wondering why we're going to start there, it's simple because the Ill-Clan recognition guides have a smattering from everything. They have tech from like Succession Wars mechs all the way up to the newer stuff. And that lets us go ahead and look at these mechs, and instead of going all the way back to like TRO 2750 and then working our way up by book. So let's take a moment and we'll be right into that. Okay, so what we're going to be starting with today, whatever it is for you, is the Griffin. This is the first of the mechs covered in Recognition Guide Ill-Clan, Volume 1. And this is so the Griffin is one of the oldest battle mechs still used. It's a 55-ton machine. I want to say it came out like what? Actually, it has it here. Blah blah blah. 25 years after the Mackie. So this is one of the oldest battle mechs used. And the two Griffins that are covered in the as far as the technical readout part are the Griffin 3N and the Griffin C. The 3N is I don't think it has a year that it came out. I'm looking real quick. Nope, I don't see it. So, anyway, it's Case 2. It's a relatively modern variant. It's a 275 powered engine, so it's a standard powered engine. Endo steel chassis, 11 heat sinks, 22, well, because they're double, it does 22 heat dissipation. Armor coverage is 10 tons. And it's got a variation on the classic Griffin loadout. It's an ERPPC enhanced LRM-10. Artemis 4 with compatible ammo, Case 2, and 5 jump jets. So, it's a modernized version of the original Griffin, or the older Griffin, which originally saw service with the Star League Defense Force. Eventually, well, actually saw it with the House Cameron forces, but then it became a mainstay of the Star League Defense Force. And I know a lot of Griffins a lot of times are associated with House Steiner. In fact, one of the classic things about House Steiner is that in the throne room there are two Royal Guard griffins flanking the throne of the Archon. But yeah, the griffin itself is actually a pretty good design. Um, it's a trooper. So it's not built for assaulting a thing. It's not built for recon. It's built for. This is one of your mainline mechs. You're going to see a lot of them, and you're going to see them fairly often. So, as far as the Griffin, we have the 3N. There's also the Griffin C, which is basically. So you have the 2C version of the Griffin, which we'll talk about at a later point, on a different episode, most likely. And then you have the old Star League Griffins that the clans took with them. But then you had them go, you know what would be awesome is if we took these Star League Griffins, ripped everything out, and shoved in our own stuff. And that's essentially what you have here. With the Griffin C, you're looking at a mech that is, once again, 55 tons. It's a Griffin chassis. It has endo steel chassis. It's a 330 XL engine, so they've upgraded the engine. Its speed is 699. It has improved jump jets. So instead of 585, you are super mobile in this mech, but it doesn't suffer because of the clan weapons. You carry a clan ER PPC, which is 50% more efficient than the Inner Sphere version. A Streak LRM-10, which is going to be super ammo conservative with, with 12 reloads. Clan case, and that's all on the right arm, right torso. So there's no weapons on the left side. So if you ever want to really give a Griffin a hard day, be in its left arc, at least for the clan one. Actually, for both of them, I take that back, both of them. And then you have improved jump jets in the legs and torsos. Oh, excuse me, the legs and torsos. So this is like a Locust's worst nightmare because it can jump as far as the old Locusts can walk. If we want to look at these in Alpha Strike, which, like I said, is where I sort of spend most of my time now. I came up with classic. Well, I didn't come up with it, but I came up playing classic BattleTech. But Alpha Strike is sort of where I'm leaning at this point. So, starting with the 3N Griffin, in Alpha Strike, it is Battle Mech size 2, target movement modifier of 2, points, 34 points. So it's right in that middle ground as far as points, where it's a sniper, short, medium, and longer, all 2. It has 6 armor and 5 structure. Specials are case 2 and indirect fire 1. So it's not something that is super powerful, but it's not something that's, it's not the end all be all, but it's also not a bad unit. Excuse me, for some reason I'm yawning a bit. But then we have the Griffin C, which in Alpha Strike, Battle Mech size 2, target movement modifier of 2. Movement is 12 with 18 jump at 37 points. Okay, so this is only a 3-point difference from the 3N. It's short, medium, and longer, all 3. So it hits a little bit harder. Has armor of 7, structure of 3, so it's 10. So it's 1 point less of damage that it can take. Yep, that's 10, that's 11. Yep. Or no. 6 was, yep, it's 11. Okay, so it's one less point of damage that it can take. Its specials are case and jump S1, which is strong. And the 1 is how much you modify that by. So when it jumps, it has a target, it gains an additional +1 plus the jump move. So that target movement modifier goes from a 2 to a 4. And yeah, this is going to be one of those irritating mechs that you just can't get rid of. Mind you, we're not on the level of like the Locust that has a target movement modifier of 5, but we are up there. And considering that your average skill is going to be about a 4, then you're looking at a pretty solid Alpha Strike unit. Um, Also, wanted to go ahead and talk real quick about. Let's see, because we got the tech stuff done. We got that. Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about the one other segment we're going to talk about for the day, which is what's on the workbench. What hobby stuff have I been up to? So first of all, I hope that whoever's listening, I hope that you are getting hobby stuff done. I know the pandemic is sort of winding to a close, and it's kind of an odd time for me to be starting a podcast in that matter, actually. But who cares? Um, there need to be more BattleTech podcasts, even if it's just a girl talking about her experiences with playing and her frustration with certain things and whatever. It helps. Every BattleTech podcast out there brings attention to the game, and it brings attention to different aspects. So, you know, it's good. But as far as hobby stuff, what's going on with me? Well, I do commission painting under Commissions by Carrie, and right now, oh, let's see, what kind of hot water am I into now? I have on my latest commission is a company of Davian guards in the French flag looking scheme, the blue, white, and red, which I prefer. I know people make fun of it. I prefer the tracksuit Davians simply because they're solid blue with a couple stripes. They don't they don't stick out like the red, white, and blue ones. Um, it seems more subdued, if you will. Let's see what else we got going on. Oh, Deneb Light Cavalry, a company of them. That's a reinforced company actually, and it includes Prometheus. Or no, the Davian Guards are the reinforced company. They include Prometheus. Um, a trinary of Clan Steel Viper Alpha Galaxy and a trinary of Clan Steel Viper Beta Galaxy. Now these are all for one client. There's also like a Lance of Urban Mechs in there that are being done in like a weird old. Um, Imagine like the Fifth Element, like Dallas Corbin's Taxi, how it was all grungy and stuff. It's pretty much what we're doing there. And then some elementals, some SRM and LRM carriers, stuff like that. But as far as the as far as the new mechs, the new stuff that's come out, I like it and don't like it at the same time. So a lot of them, people have argued that the scale is bigger, which in fact, if you look at the scale of the mechs and compare them to the resculpts, it's really not. A lot of what's happened is that they've simply bulked up. Um, like if you take the Blackhawk H and the new Nova and stand them side by side, they are roughly the same size. It is the bulkiness of the new Nova, though, that makes it look. I don't know how to put it. Actually, I don't care for the new Nova. I just don't like the look of it. I don't know why. It just doesn't look right. But then you have like the Timberwolf, which looks freaking amazing. Like, what the hell? It's. And mind you, though, that Timberwolf and a Timberwolf from 20 years ago is the same Timberwolf. It's just, it's bulked up. It's taken some Beefcake 3000 or whatever Eric Cartman used to take, and it's gotten bigger. Um, but it's not gotten taller. Well, maybe a little bit, but it's not bulked out. And in fact, one miniature where the argument completely falls flat on its face is the Grendel. The current Grendel sculpt is littler than the metal sculpt. Um, but I'm sort of digressing there. What I wanted to talk about was so this commission of God, what is that? 30, 54, almost 60 mechs or maybe a little over 60. I can't remember. It's 60 some odd mechs. And there's another group coming with Wave 2, but that's another thing for another day. Decals. All right, so on the Inner Sphere mechs, decal placement. Excuse me. Decal placement isn't too hard. It's actually pretty easy. There's not a lot of like greebly stuff to give you problems or anything like that. As you get into the clan mechs, they're so greebly that the decals sort of start becoming an issue. Now, mind you, there's some areas on them that are awesome, like like on the Dire Wolf. It has nice big flat areas up on the top where you can just do whatever the hell you want. In fact, I did I did a Clan Wolf group that's tiger striped, and is inspired by Brushido on camo specs. But yeah, I mean, it's like finding nice flat areas to put decals on is becoming an issue, especially on some of the like the Hellbringer and Summoner and I can't remember the clan versus Inner names. Hellbringer, Loki, Clan Summoner, Thor. Those two. It's really hard to find a flat surface to stick a Clan Steel Viper logo on the mech. It's just so greebled. And then when you start using like the stuff to actually make the decals conform to the surface, they can disappear like partially because everything's so deep. So it gets where you're like looking at it and going, okay, do I have to fill this one cross area up here on the left shoulder or the left chest so that it'll have a good flat surface to adhere to, and it won't when I put the microsol and the micro set on it, it's not going to sink down into there. But yeah, so it's like a whole different ball game now with the new miniatures as far as using decals on some of them. Other ones like the Mad Cat, the Vulture, a lot of times I'm finding the legs are the primary place to stick them. And then on other ones like the Nova and all, they got little tiny spots where you can stick them. But yeah, I like them. I like the amount of detail. I just wish the details weren't so deep. It makes it very interesting placing like faction logos and everything on there. So that is the end of the episode for today. It looks like we're going to round out at about half an hour, which I hope isn't too long. I hope you've enjoyed this. And yeah, so y'all have a great day, great evening, great whatever it is where you are. Keep playing Battletech, and hopefully we'll have other stuff to follow as far as like a Facebook page and stuff like that. That way, we can start a community and maybe have like 3 different tournament formats out there being played. And that would be awesome because it would give us variety in what we do. So this is Carrie signing off. Y'all have a great day.